Hi everyone, thank you for joining. Just hang tight and we will get started shortly. Of course my dog decides to bark at this very moment, everyone. I think it's the male man or woman. I think we're good. All right, I'll go and get ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jennifer Schultz, and I will be running the show today as we take a look at state environmental health legislation over the past 1.5 years. I'd like to first thank Hope and Haley. Their support has helped make this research possible. 2 quick housekeeping items. I encourage you to participate through the chat box, which is found in the lower left corner of your screen. Type questions or comments at any time. I believe I have a colleague or two on here that can respond to any quick questions. I will pause and address the larger ones at the end. Second, the webinar is being recorded, and I will share the link and slides with Haley afterwards to send out to everyone. Okay, our housekeeping is done. As I said at the start, my name is Jennifer Schultz. I am a program principal with NCSL's Environment, Energy, and Transportation program. I cover a variety of policy topics related to the environment and environmental health, but also military and veterans affairs. So it's truly never a dull moment. I imagine some of you are wondering, what is NCSL? The National Conference of State Legislatures is a trusted bipartisan organization serving legislators and staff for more than 40 years. Our constituents number 7,383 legislators and 30,000 staff. We promote policy innovation, create opportunities for lawmakers to share knowledge, and ensure state legislatures have a strong, cohesive voice in the federal system. How do we do that exactly? Well, here are some of the services we provide. We track more than 1,400 issue areas from criminal justice to health to elections and redistricting. We bring legislators and staff from both sides of the aisle together to talk and find solutions. We provide professional development opportunities to legislators and staff. My colleagues in our DC office advocate on Capitol Hill on behalf of states on a host of issues. And we host a lot of policy-oriented meetings, more than 100 during a typical year. Here is a snapshot of our environment program. We are 5 members strong, 4 in Denver and 1 in our DC office. We manage 2 legislation databases on our website, and the links are provided in the slide. We answer custom research requests from legislators, staff, and the media. We write anything from a blog to a large report. And a few of us staff NCSL standing committees and task forces. The Natural Resources and Infrastructure Committee is one of 8 NCSL committees. We have hundreds of members, legislators, and staff from around the country. They will be meeting in person in November at our Legislative Summit, which is NCSL's largest meeting of the year. So we're all gearing up for that. Taking a step back, I thought it would be interesting to include some fun facts about state legislatures. As you can see from these numbers, state legislatures as a whole lean Republican. 54% of state legislators are Republican, 62% of chambers are controlled by Republicans, and 61% of legislatures are Republican, meaning the party controls both chambers. And 11 states have a governor of a different party than the legislative chambers, so we consider them divided. Nebraska is the only unicameral legislature in the country, and its members are elected on a nonpartisan basis, though the majority identify as Republican. Nebraska also has the smallest legislature with 49 members. New Hampshire has the largest with 424. Some legislatures are full-time, like California, Michigan, New York, and Pennsylvania, and others operate on a part-time basis, Montana, the Dakotas, and Wyoming especially. Most are somewhere in between. Finally, 15 states place term limits on legislators, averaging 8 years. Term limits are historically popular among voters, but no denying it has an impact on the functioning of the legislature. My parameters for this presentation are 2020 and 2021 environmental health legislation, so I want to share a bit about those two sessions. Despite COVID-19, most states did meet in 2020, either remotely or in person. Only Montana, North Dakota, and Texas did not meet at all, but that was not due to the pandemic. They only meet in odd-numbered years. Nevada is that way too, but they were pulled into 2 special sessions in 2020. That said, at least 36 states made changes to legislative operations, for example, allowing for remote meetings, remote voting, extending bill deadlines, and altering recess periods. This year, all states and territories held a regular session. Regular in the sense of a starting date set by the Constitution or statute. Many were still abnormal, though, with meeting virtually for part of the year at least. As you can see from the map, 17 states, DC, and the territories are still in session, regular or special. Something to keep in mind when I share bill counts from 2021. Right, okay, let's get to environmental health legislation. States introduced around 2,500 bills in 2020 and 3,000 in 2021. Enacted bills numbered around 340 last year and 468 so far this year. These numbers roughly track with previous years. My former colleague, Doug Farquhar, who some of you might have worked with, counted 2,200 bills in 2019 and 3,400 in 2018. Few bills actually become law on average, and this is based on more than 20 years of data from another colleague. On average, for state legislatures only, approximately 109,000 bills and 20,000 resolutions are introduced in state legislatures each year. The average enactment rate for bills and resolutions is about 25% combined. Some of the topics included in these environmental health bill counts are listed here. They are also the ones I will be sharing information on today. First up is PFOS. This is one of the biggest issues we are tracking in environmental health right now. As we know, PFOS are a group of human-made forever chemicals that are linked to a variety of diseases and health conditions. PFOS are everywhere in firefighting foam, cookware, cosmetics, fast food wrappers, even dental floss, and they are widespread in drinking water. With very little federal action until recently, states have definitely led the way. The number of PFOS bills at the state level has increased dramatically in the past 4 years. To date, over half the states and Guam have enacted at least one piece of legislation to address PFOS. This does not include governors' executive orders or agency initiatives, of which there are many as well. Enacted bills tend to fit into one of 4 categories, focusing on drinking water, firefighting foam, or just roll through it, packaging and consumer products, and cleanup and remediation. My colleagues Shelley Oren and Kristen Hildreth have been tracking this for some time and co-authored the resources linked at the bottom of this slide. It's a Legis brief and a web page. Our Legis Briefs are like white papers. EPA has yet to set a maximum contaminant level for PFOS in drinking water, so several states have taken it upon themselves to do so. At least 13 states have set MCLs or are in the process of doing so. These include California, Colorado, Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Vermont, and Virginia. Here are a few examples. New Hampshire set MCLs for 4 types of PFOS ranging from 12 to 18 parts per trillion. Michigan regulates 7 different PFOS, and the maximum contaminant level is as low as 6 parts per trillion for one of those. And Vermont limits contamination to a combined 20 parts per trillion for 5 different PFOS. So many different options. Colorado, where I live, is home to several military bases where the use of PFOS firefighting foam has caused groundwater contamination. That state was one of at least 14 that banned or limited use of Class B firefighting foam in 2020 and 2021. A number of states also banned PFOS in certain consumer products like furniture, food packaging, children's toys, and cosmetics. State legislatures are also finding solutions for cleanup and remediation. Colorado established a PFOS cash fund to administer a take-back and grant program. Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania each put millions of dollars behind take-back testing and infrastructure. And Maine is helping farmers affected by PFOS. They also banned aerial application of pesticides containing PFOS recently. And I realized I forgot to advance that slide. Moving on to lead, which is another huge issue. Lead service lines are the main source of lead in contact with drinking water. A combined 114 bills were introduced in 2020 and 2021. Not many were enacted, though. Here are a few highlights. 2 substantial bills are on governors' desks in Illinois and New Jersey. To some extent, they would both require an inventory and replacement plan of lead service lines at the local level within a certain time frame. The Illinois bill also has provisions related to notification, prohibits partial lead service line replacement, and creates a separate low-income water assistance program. 2 other bills to mention from 2020. Minnesota is providing financial assistance for 50% of the project costs to replace the privately owned portion of lead service lines. And Virginia is now has a residential property disclosure for lead pipes. There were a larger number of enactments related to childhood lead poisoning and lead in schools. Here are a few examples. Delaware and Utah strengthened requirements about testing and screening of children. Maryland and North Carolina updated their thresholds for acceptable levels of lead. And Virginia and Washington set requirements around testing of water in school buildings. This slide shows a few other toxics and chemicals that caught the attention of lawmakers in 2020 and 2021. Maine passed a bill this year requiring an inventory of all state-owned buildings for asbestos, lead, black mold, and other substances that may be harmful to human health. Regarding sunscreen, Virginia and Rhode Island continued the trend in recent years of allowing public school students to possess and apply sunscreen on school property or at events without a prescription. DC did the same, adding a caveat that students may receive help from a staff member to apply sunscreen, and also excluding sunscreen from being classified as a medication. Air toxics. Colorado is addressing toxics in the air by requiring real-time monitoring at certain industrial facilities and community-based monitoring in areas where people are most at risk. On chemicals, Minnesota became the first state to ban the dry cleaning chemical known as PERC in March of this year. The bill passed unanimously in the House and Senate. 2 states, California and Maine, enacted legislation to regulate chlorpyrifos. I hope I pronounced that right. Chlorpyrifos, which is a pesticide that has been linked to brain damage in children. And Maryland and possibly New York, that bill is on the governor's desk, banned furniture and mattresses containing a certain amount of flame retardant chemical. My next topic is food safety. I have 2 slides here that show enacted bills by year. In 2020, 28 states and DC enacted legislation related to food safety. It evenly covers the map, as you can see. Some of the topics were cottage foods. There were several bills on cottage foods, food donations, safety around third-party food deliveries, school foods and restaurant meals for kids, state foods promotion, nonprofit food services, farmers markets, meat and shellfish, milk and eggs, and plant-based foods. I think I could do a separate webinar just going through all of those bills. I will not today, but feel free to reach out. In 2020, 20 states have enacted food safety legislation, with many bills still pending. Some topics are the same, but there are also bills enacted on food deserts, agricultural worker safety, micro markets, and there's a meat packing compact between Montana and Wyoming. Here are some bills that were enacted on wastewater. Alabama and Florida are putting some money toward replacing private sewer laterals. Florida is also requiring wastewater utilities to come up with plans to eliminate non-beneficial surface water discharge. Indiana created a task force to look at a whole list of things related to wastewater infrastructure and expanding service to underserved areas. And North Dakota created a committee to develop a statewide technical guide to on-site wastewater recycling treatment technologies, which local public health units will adopt. Moving into indoor air quality, the main issues were mold, radon, smoke, and air purification in schools. I listed some examples of enacted bills under each category. For mold, I already mentioned Maine's bill to screen all state buildings, and Virginia is requiring school boards to clean up mold in the schools. It requires notification to the Department of Health, staff, and parents. For radon, Colorado is licensing radon professionals. Utah is going to study ways to increase public awareness about the risks of radon. Vermont appropriated $4 million to address school facility needs and costs, including adding a radon test requirement. And Virginia added some language around radon to property disclosures. For smoke, Louisiana prohibits the use of any vaping device in a motor vehicle when a child is present in the vehicle. And Virginia, again, made it illegal to smoke in a motor vehicle in the presence of a minor under 15. It was previously a child under 8. Finally, air in schools took on greater importance since COVID. At least 3 states enacted bills on this. Colorado is awarding grants for public school air quality improvement. Nebraska is starting a pilot program to study commercial air filters in classrooms. And Nevada is requiring schools to at least assess and possibly improve the ventilation and filtration systems in schools if money is available. Not a whole lot on swimming pools, though there were a few enacted bills. New Mexico created an environmental health fund, which will be filled with fees charged on public water recreation facilities. New York has a bill before the governor now that would create a commission to prevent childhood drowning. Ohio allows swimming classes, or will allow swimming classes to take place at private residential pools without a public pool license. And Texas adopted portions of the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code. Oh, next slide. All right. I started my legislative overview with PFOS, and I will end with another hot topic, environmental justice. As you can see from the bar graph, states considered almost double the amount of bills from one year to the next, and enacted bills have more than doubled already, and there are still states in session. Some examples are on the right side. Colorado created an EJ ombudsman. Maine is incorporating equity considerations into decision-making by state agencies. Similarly, Oregon is considering these things when determining utility rates. Virginia created an EJ Council to better involve communities in decision-making, and Washington implemented a number of recommendations of their 2020 Environmental Justice Task Force, and that report is linked on the slide if you're interested. So I ran through that fairly quickly, and I know I jumped all over the place in topics. Anyway, so environmental health is always a big issue at the state level, and I hope that the overview I provided of the recent activity is useful. I will take a look at the chat and see if there are any questions, and feel free to type any in now if you have any. There's a lot of multitasking involved with this. I don't see any questions, but I will wait a few minutes. Oh, I appreciate those notes, Hope and Lindy. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And like I said, the webinar is being recorded, and I can share all of the slides and that recording for you all to view at another time, and feel free to reach out to me. Like I said, we're tracking a lot of bills, and I can always provide updates on certain issues or more information. I know that I just hit the highlights of enacted bills, but there are many, many that are pending. So I'm not seeing any questions, which is fine. And it's odd that I can't see any of you either, like a regular Zoom call. But okay, well, I guess I'll just go ahead and end there. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate what you do at CDC, and have a great rest of your day. Oh, I think I do have a question actually after I just ended. From your perspective, what are the biggest priorities and challenges for state legislatures? I mean, I think broadly, recovery after the pandemic, or I guess it's not technically over yet, is it? It is a large issue before state legislatures, just around economic recovery. State budgets took a hit, recovering from that. Within environmental health, like I said, we are seeing a lot of bills on PFOS, and then additional toxics and chemicals are coming to the forefront. Environmental justice bills, as I said, are increasing in number, though not everywhere. Food safety, a lot of bills are enacted on food safety and a diversity of topic areas. So that continues to be a major issue. And elections and redistricting, I mean, I could go on. There's a lot there. Education, there's a lot of state legislators are busy, and and oftentimes the state is the place where um, solutions are found. So we will continue to keep an eye on that. All right. Well, like I said, thank you all for joining and have a great day.